Okay. Buttons are pressed.
All right. Hello, everybody. Whew. My brain is a jumbled mess today, Josh. It feels like there's just like the mind map is just full of multiple different nodes, and normally there's only a few of them, and they have maybe a few associated nodes, and now they have like 7 million.
Jess and I we were in New York this week and had too many conversations with too many smart people, and just came away with just a blown open mind of possibilities. I think.
Woe is us. Woe is us. But excited to be back here Friday. It's fun to be in the afternoon. This is what you get to experience all the time, Josh. This is a 1 p.m. start. It's glorious.
Thank God for it, because my Friday mornings are just scrambly preparation for the show, and I need that. I need that.
That's fair. Good. Looks like my Wi-Fi's working. All right. So we've got a great show today. We're gonna. I mean, scene coins are all over the crypto Twitter. I mean, the beginnings of it, at least, I think. So interesting to dive in there. So we've got Light from Hire, and we're going to talk to Merch. I actually know very little about Merch, and so I'm excited to hear from Kobe what they're working on over there. Social distribution. I have no idea what I'm going to say there, but I have a lot of thoughts. That's actually tapping into the jumbled mess of my brain very directly. And then some really interesting nouns, the entertainment world of tokens, the future of culture. These are just big topics. I love it. We're going to get into it. Looks like people are tuning in. Lovely to have you all back here. We had 1,800 people at the low end of our stream last Friday with talking to DGen. Concurrent. Yes, that's right. That's the word I was looking for. Very excited. The core crew keeps showing up, and then we get to have a bunch of new folks every week. Just get the sense that we're still really early to some big wave that's coming, and we just get to see it in all these like indirect numbers. So excited for y'all to be here early with us, and excited to jump into the show. So we got a tight timeline today.
We have a tight timeline and technical difficulties right now in pushing the site live for people on live.seedclub. Okay, we're good. I'm getting the notes now.
I was gonna say, I think the numbers are ticking up.
Okay, baby. Amazing.
We solved problems.
So I can log in. Okay, I'll play us in. Thanks, guys.
What up? What up? Episode 24 of Internet Explorers, Big 2-4. I guess we're legal in every state now to go out and drink and have fun and ape tokens. So that's exciting. That makes no sense. 21 is where I should have made that joke today. Episode 24 of Internet Explorers. We're here live every Friday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Dive into the latest things of this emerging consumer crypto space. Explore the frontiers at the edges of the internet. Be early together. I love that, sort of reflecting on this whole scene coin stuff we've been talking about in the last little while, Josh. When we first started talking about DGen, what was the market price at that? And it was $6.5 million. $6.5 million. So if people did what I did at that moment, it was like, I'm gonna Wake is brilliant. I'm gonna go buy some of these things. We're up bigly. I think that's the exciting part here. We get to go be on the edges with new things that are emerging that are going to be popular very soon, and hopefully we can be early to them. So I think that's the show we have for you today as well. I'm still here in New York, calling in from a crappy hotel Wi-Fi, so hopefully that's going to work. And then I have a plane to catch after this, so we're going to stay on schedule, Josh. We're not going to ramble.
We always do.
This introduction is going to be super tight. Anyways, joined here by Josh. Back home, Josh. Back in the winter.
Back home, Josh. I'm good. Got back from Costa Rica for like 12 hours, flew to New York. Now I've been back for 12 more hours, and who knows what happens tomorrow. So no, we're good.
Exactly. And then we got Peace on the clickers here. Peace is the big eclipse week for you.
Big eclipse week. It was awesome. Family came down. We went over to the park. We looked at it. We looked straight into the sun. It was completely awesome. If you weren't in the path of totality, it is worth getting into it next time, because it was a cosmic event for real.
It actually blew it entirely blew my mind. My partner forced me to go watch it, and I didn't expect it to be that cool, and I'm glad I did.
well, 2040 or something like that. We have that to look forward to. Just imagine what crypto is going to be like in 2040.
It's gonna be higher.
We'll all be trading Eclipse tokens, and the websites will be working. All right, so great show today. Lots of topics to get into. We've got a couple contributors, founders, and some really interesting projects for us to kick off with. So I think we should jump into it. Let's bring Light up on the stage here, and I'll throw it over to you, Josh.
Nice. We got Light coming on the show. Yeah, so I guess last week we talked about Light, or at least the post you wrote around kind of left curving DAOs and kind of, talking through your higher experience through the lens of like what DAOs used to be and kind of how much more like fluid and flexible this new potential DAO structure using meme coins feels. But anyways, it was kind of like, I was like, who is this Light guy? I was kind of clicking around, went to your website and enjoyed that you described yourself as an artist, designer, writer, and technologist based in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. I thought that was good. So I've just, I don't know, kind of increasingly just bumped into you over the last couple months, largely because of Hire. I think you're also maybe like a founder or co-founder of Base Management, which would also be interesting to touch on. I also caught up with Martin earlier today, who is also kind of an early core contributor in Hire. And he said that, what did he say? He was like, Light is very, very good at this specific thing that I don't know how to describe. So I'm excited to try to figure out what that thing is. So maybe I'll just throw it to you for a quick intro on how do you describe who or what Light is at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Similar to like profile photos, how I change them all the time. I feel like I have more of a chaotic and fluid type of personality. I don't really set in on a specific like identity. My therapist said a long time ago, you are consistently inconsistent. So
it's like my golf game.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's kind of the best way to describe it. In all honesty, I think if I were to kind of take some of the humor out of it and try to find something poignant, I think I'm just good at being vulnerable, which requires some courage as well. Not necessarily in like a pat myself on the back kind of way, but more technical, like just jump, see if the shoe pulls or if you hit the ground. And luckily these are all kind of mental cognitive experiments. They're not actually jumping off mountains. So if you hit the ground, just get back up and try again. So I'm really interested in 0 to 1 acceleration at the moment for crypto, like use cases and experiments, mainly because I have a creative background. And, I had that light bulb moment. I talked to Jess a little bit about this off air of like, wow, this is what I've been looking for like bootstrapping a creative career, or an independent creative career, I should say. So, I'm interested in doing my part to figure out how to work best at that personally, obviously, but as also in the crypto ethos of like spreading it for the next group that comes, so they don't have all the growing pains and they don't burn all the money that they bring and, some of the painful stuff that turns people away forever.
Nice. Love it. So maybe let's jump into, I think we can touch on Base Management. I think Hire is the more like topical thing to talk about right now. Do you want to kind of give the quick kind of background on how you got involved? Like, did you conceptualize it? What was kind of like the very early days of 0 to 1 of Hire?
Hire or Base Management? Sorry,
Hire.
Hire. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Okay, so there's a Twitter account called Web3 Quant, kind of leaking alpha here because he's my favorite quant and I don't want him to blow up too much, but he's rock solid. And he ends all his bullish posts by saying Hire. And I had just been lurking on his page for months. So it's just kind of was seeping in subconsciously, I believe. And I was having a day where I was kind of like irritable and emotions were out of swing. And I looked at my portfolio and I was very happy. And it was a moment of like, oh shit, like price higher, all these things. I'm not in a bad mood. Stuff bounces off me easier, et cetera, et cetera. So I just went into Farcaster and kind of logged the note for later to make it more like contextual of like higher can be a state of mind that we work from regardless of prices. If I just adopt that prices are higher fictitiously in my head, I could be in a better mood. and then 6 reduced it to hire as a lifestyle. And then I was talking with Jacob over at Zora, and he was saying he loves hire, and then he came up with the Unicode symbol. And after that call, I was like, oh crap, okay, I'll start a channel right away and make it. And so started a channel, put 6 as a co-host. And then within a couple of days, Martin was like this hire meme, let's create a token, created it, airdropped it to all the current channel members at the time. And then the rest has just been equally as emergent. You know, we're really just flying by the seat of our pants, honestly.
Yeah. And how do you describe what hire is? Like, I've been using this scene coin language a lot to kind of describe, I think, what DGen kind of pioneered, what Enjoy is becoming. I often do group hire into that. Curious if that resonates. I think Martin's kind of called it, what do you call it? Like an infinitely memeable luxury token or something. I don't know. I'm curious what kind of language you use to like compartmentalize hire in your mind.
Yeah, the scene coin meta is interesting. I've been watching guys kind of play with that. I kind of just stick with meme coin because hire is such like a meme. But I just posted something on Farcaster earlier today of, I guess in a way we could say it's a brand token, right? Hire is a lifestyle. In that quick screenshot essay I wrote, it was like I had this realization that the only way hire will be successful is if the people who own hire and contribute to hire actually embody hire, like, and not in some like soft core way, like genuinely embody that meme. That's the only way that the market will actually verify it as being a legitimate thing. And so I would say, I guess hire is a lifestyle, hire is a lifestyle brand, so brand token or something. Maybe I'll probably change my mind, but for now that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how much like the token model and how it's initially conceptualized actually has an impact, and probably what the right term to describe it is. And, and I think meme coin as like the base versus scene coin is very much the right thing for hire. It was sort of birthed very organically. I think there was sort of a party involved at some point. I think very clearly, if you look at Enjoy and DGen, the sort of social distribution is the core component that I think actually allows it to be more of a scene coin, or at least that's the core strategy from that sort of token decision that's embedded there. Whereas meme coins are very often fully distributed from the get-go. And I think that's the case with hire as well. And there are sort of other paths you go down to actually get to the place where maybe you're in a place to kind of go build out the brand longer term, et cetera. So I think there's like a lot of distinctions that get made, or just later distinctions will be made based on some of the early decisions that teams make around how they launch tokens.
Yeah, I almost want to revise my answer and just kind of go with DAO token. That's kind of the piece that kind of took off a bit. And in a way, I was thinking before I hopped on, it's like everybody who holds hire has an Enjoy tip allocation, most likely, right? So scene coin makes more sense to me in that sense than that for hire, because it's like everybody who has Enjoy doesn't have hire, but vice versa is definitely true.
I mean, I love the idea of being a brand token, and I think that's so clearly an opportunity. Like, I think if we think about the next eclipse in 2040, like there will be, so if it's sort of the social value around a brand is just not captured today in the traditional equity system, I just see a huge opportunity to go do that. And I think a lot of teams are kind of running, like the first place they go is that, okay, a big brand should launch a token. Great, Starbucks has launched a token on Polygon. And I think that's just so totally the wrong way to think about it. It's more likely that the next Supreme is built with a token from day one, and that actually allows it maybe to be bigger, faster, more meaningful for the people who sort of identify with it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm curious how you think about where hire goes from here. Like, I think you guys have done an incredible job just kind of, creating an amazing visual language around it, kind of just like continuing to meme it into existence. And even, honestly, just like participating in that is great. Like, it's this great kind of, brand cultural kind of scene experience. But I'm curious if I guess looking forward a bit, is it just more of that, or do you think there's something else to do?
We'll have to be careful if people listening are expecting me to pump their coins. So I'm speaking more from an experimental standpoint here. But some of what Jess just said with brand in terms of I see it becoming a lifestyle that has market cachet. Right. I don't know if that's really been fully like fleshed out yet. You have the stock market and stuff, but even then VCs dump on you. So I'm interested in like what happens with a grassroots movement where everybody has skin in the game or equity in the idea itself, and then get to building. And then, theoretically, if that is successful, there's epochs rather than cycles, and each new epoch is a whole new set of contributors who can get skin in the game and then add to the project itself. So I see more tools. I really want to explore like AI as a visual medium, so we can really unlock creative expression for people who are not naturally creative. Meme tools, kind of like I've been trying forever since Basepaint has come out, of like, can we figure out a Procreate version of Basepaint? Like, can we figure out a Figma version of Basepaint? Can we get other mediums in there? So I think more art tools, AI tools, peer-to-peer software, obviously anything that, I again, not to name drop, I was talking to Jacob about Zora, and I had a light bulb moment of Zora is Ethereum. I had the same light bulb moment with Base is Ethereum. So where I see Hire going is an opinionated version of Ethereum itself. So whatever Ethereum does, Hire having his opinions on what it likes best, and then expressing those in the market.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just such an interesting design space, and it sort of benefits from being so vague in many ways, right? Like, and I think it benefits from being almost irrelevant in the broader context for a longer period of time than I think many people might want that to be, and for the sense of for there to be time and ways for people to really feel a sense of affinity and ownership and belonging, identity in these types of things. And I think that's kind of what you guys got right by launching it when you did, to the people who you did in the way that you did. And it's all done in a way that I think if you tried to go plan it and do it again today, it wouldn't work in the same way. So I think a lot about that, and just how much sort of you use the word emergence, just how important emergence is, and how do you continue to facilitate that, because a lot of the demands from token holders and just as things grow, it'll be to get a lot more certain with things. So I think it's just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I think even just how these like token brands can contextualize or like constrain on-chain creation in these really like useful ways. Like if you now creating, maybe using the higher visual language, or even something kind of tangential but pricing it in higher, is really this like clear intention to like serve that community and get the attention of that community. And I think looking at that world versus the previous world of like everything's targeting everyone and priced in ETH, which is everyone, like this just feels so much more impactful and easier to like make a difference in, or even just like make sense of as a creator.
Yeah, totally. It brings up a point that I need to get better at. I was talking to Six a little bit about this, but that like built-in network that you can leverage is something that I haven't done a good job explaining yet to other people in the higher community, of like, it's not just the arrow, it's the meme itself. So if you feel like what you're creating or what you're doing or what you want to share resonates with people who have an affinity for this specific like demographic, come leverage the attention weighting. Anybody who holds Hire or Enjoy or whatever, brand token or scene coin token, it's like they're waiting for people to come make cool shit and say that they want it to be attributed to this area. So it's like, that, where else does that happen? You don't have anywhere else where there's like attention networks like that waiting to be like, yes, we like your idea.
Oh, attention network. That's the thing we haven't said in a little while, and still is in Josh's drafts folder on his list of blog posts, right? Yeah, man, amazing. Well, I think like it clearly has captured the right part of the zeitgeist right now, and I think it's just a very interesting time as there's many more people contributing and participating. I think that's really what has happened here. So there's just this like much wider surface area for people to just kind of fuck around and find out with, both within these scene coins and then just at the meta level of scene coins. So yeah, very much admire what you guys have put together. And it was such a delightful experience for somebody to mention hire. And I was like, oh man, maybe I should go buy some of those tokens. And I had tokens. The tokens were in my wallet, and I was like, hire. Cool, man. Well, we got a tight show today, so we're going to let you go there. People should definitely go join the Hire channel. They made it incredibly easy for you to go make stuff there that's Hire aligned. Go create some stuff. The community is very active and loves it when you create amazing things. And I think it sounds like there's a broader invitation to dream up and imagine and think about what you might actually make in and around scene coins generally and the Hire brand itself. So there's somebody out there listening that's going to do the next cool thing. I encourage you to go do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, brother. Be well.
See you, boss.
See you.
See you later.
I think there's sort of this interesting dynamic in my brain right now, which is like there's sort of like a degree of trying to make something that feels not super clear and real to many people, but feels very real to those people that are in the middle of it. That I guess this is a dynamic of like wanting to define something broad enough to capture a lot of things, and yet so many of the more interesting things to kind of defy that clear high level description. And so we talk about brand tokens. It feels like, okay, like meme coins need to be a thing, and then maybe there's some subset of things that need to be a thing first. And like most people are still struggling with whether meme coins can be a thing. But if I just sort of think about the idea of like a brand token, which is a version of a meme token, it's just so inevitable to me that that's an asset class that, adds an immense amount of value and tool sets and opportunities to the people that are building that out. And that those are going to come ground up and be built in a much more organic way than will likely be the next wave once this idea really does catch hold and teams try to go launch things in, just ways that actually aren't truly involving people from day one in this experience.
Yeah, totally. I think we said it this week a number of times, and like we just like tokens, right? And I think like the thing to do is just in this world, and having conversations with a bunch of projects, trying to figure out who to go after and who to talk to. It's like there's a lot of people that are just here and like tokens and like consuming tokens and just want to do things with them, and like let's just explore that.
The token is the product.
The token's the product. Every token's beautiful.
Yeah.
Speaking of tokens, shall we get Colby up here? There we go. What's up?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
New York is looking very, very great today.
New York is just really changed vibes. It was sunny earlier and warm, and then I left to come over to my office and it was pouring down rain. So it happened very quickly.
Can confirm. I got stuck in it as well. And it reminds me of Vancouver.
Like, just never like under an overpass. It was pouring rain yesterday, taking like a Zoom call, like sitting on a ledge. And it was, I don't know, it was kind of nice actually.
I saw a lot of people running under scaffolding to shield themselves from the downpour. It got darker than it did the other day during the eclipse.
Luckily, there's a lot of it in New York, so not too hard to find. All right, sick. Very, very excited to chat. So yeah, had the pleasure of meeting you, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, maybe. You're prepping for your NFT NYC event, and yeah, just very kind of interested and captivated by what you're building. So very excited to kind of expose that. I think merch largely is still flying under the radar. Probably not for long. You have a big launch coming up next week, but so maybe let's start off with Colby, who are you, and then kind of maybe step that into what merch is.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a background in traditional fashion. I grew up loving fashion. I started writing. I was Teen Vogue's Teen Fashion Week correspondent when I was in a ninth grader in high school. So it sort of goes back even further than that. I moved to New York to go to the Gallatin School at NYU, where I studied art history and fashion business. And it's the School of Interdisciplinary Studies. So, you could take any courses you wanted, but structure your major sort of based off kind of all these ingredients that you took throughout school. So I sort of, when I graduated, I applied that same methodology to creating original content. So I started a website called Mini Muse, where I created original content surrounding the history of art, fashion, architecture, and design. And what's always really interested me is, looking at fashion through the lens of architecture, or looking at, furniture through the lens of art history. And when I discovered Web3 in March of 2021, sort of on a similar trajectory to most people who weren't already in the space after the Beeple sale happened, I just immediately started immersing myself in the space, trying to kind of learn everything I could, kind of all the buzzwords, whether it be the metaverse, Web3, blockchain, and realized instantaneously that this is where the future of my brand should live. And as I started sort of unpacking and understanding different mechanics of the space, I, kind of pulled from my mini muse train of thought, which was trying to figure out how I could authentically launch something having to do with fashion that felt really native to Web3. So my first idea was I had invested some money into purchasing land in the metaverse, and I wanted to be luxury brands Web3 native partner to onboard them into the space. So I reached out to a number of brands I had existing relationships with through partnering with them through Minimuse. It was super early. I think it's still early, but I think brands, every day are realizing the importance that they have kind of a footprint in this space and have a Web3 native strategy. So, I had a number of conversations, nothing really expanded from there. And then in August of 2021, I discovered art blocks and I started learning about generative art. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I immediately thought, why has no one ever applied a generative design process towards physical product? So that's what sort of led me on the road towards building merch, which I've been working on for full time for about the last 2.5 years. And merch is a Web3 native generative fashion brand. So again, as I started learning more about Web3, NFTs, generative art, I kind of started unpacking all of the core principles of the space and realizing that there's a significant amount of overlap with, traditional fashion, whether it be provenance, whether it be scarcity, whether it be authenticity. And so I really wanted to launch a project that felt very authentic to both spaces.
Yeah, got it. Very cool. Why don't you, I think digging into what this upcoming drop is will help kind of contextualize, what this project actually is for people. So yeah, why don't you kind of share the mechanics of it?
Our first drop is 960 one-of-one hoodies. In terms of our generative approach to product design, we choose a silhouette. I'm wearing one of our hoodies today. We break it down into a set of design traits, and then we curate all the attribute inputs. So color, pattern, material. Our first collection has 20 colors, 10 patterns, and 2 materials. Then we assign rarity values to each attribute. And then we build a bespoke algorithm with all those inputs in mind, and it generates all of our one-of-one outputs. So again, coming from a traditional fashion mindset, what really excited me about generative design was its ability to enable you to create one-of-one product at scale, which has obviously never been done before in the physical space. So we're sort of positioning merch as defining a new category we call neo-couture. So it takes the one-of-one nature of couture, marries it with the speed and scale of fast fashion with all the added benefits of Web3. Every single merch product starts first as an NFT. Each NFT is redeemable for a physical version of whatever composition of product you have in your artwork, as well as a virtual asset. And every single product vertical is connected in some way back to the blockchain. So through our physicals, it's through the NFC chip in each garment. And for this first drop, I commissioned a comic book illustrator named Gilbert Hernandez to illustrate 48 original characters all wearing hoodies. And so this is a sample of the NFT artwork. So basically with whichever hoodie your character is wearing is the one you can redeem physically.
Got it. What is, like, how much does this just like fuck with the manufacturing process? Like, do you have to, I assume this doesn't fit well into just like the existing supply chains.
Well, it was, even though I've had kind of every single job possible in fashion, like in every sort of subset of the fashion industry, I have never wanted to be a fashion designer. So I've never really knew as much about manufacturing as I know now. And sort of that, ability to think of something that's never been done before and see it through is sort of only possible when you're slightly ignorant to the traditional methods. Otherwise, I would have also understood why everyone told me that, this hasn't been done because it can't be done. But I was really excited to be able to see this idea through and prove that, it's possible. It's obviously, when it comes to cost of goods, it's higher than producing one output, a million or maybe one day 1,000 units of a single output. But we were definitely able to implement some manufacturing hacks in order to make it increasingly more cost efficient than, one would assume. For this first drop, I mentioned there's 2 materials. So of the 960 outputs, 860 of them are French terry, which is like the one I'm wearing here. And those were produced with the factory in LA. And 100 of the 960 are cashmere. And those were produced with a factory in Italy. So a knitwear factory. So, both materials sort of provided their own complexities, but I've always loved kind of problem solving. And so it was really exciting through the manufacturing process to sort of have to find common ground between what can be accomplished in knitwear and what can be accomplished in cut and sew. And, that kind of fed into the different elements of our collection.
So all these garments have NFC chips, correct?
They do.
So what does that unlock in your mind? Because I think there's a lot of debate around even what to call that category, and then what are like the actual consumer demands, needs, delightful experiences that might be unlocked from having an NFC chip.
Well, first and foremost, what really excites me about the NFC functionality is, even from a brand's perspective, thinking about kind of the traditional, consumer goods, especially in the luxury sector, the connection between brand and product is forever broken at the point of purchase. So even though a brand might have direct distribution to me as the customer, they don't necessarily know where I've worn my handbag, how many times I've worn my handbag, and so on. And they're not able necessarily to reward me for wearing my products moving forward. So what excited me, first and foremost, was the ability to maintain that sort of direct distribution to our products, even after the point of redemption. And then on the flip side, it's all the different mechanics and different forms of utility we can continue to build into those products for the collector, even after the point of purchase. So when for this first drop, after you redeem your physical, there's 2 different pieces of functionality through our NFC chip that will be live at the point of redemption. One, your design traits and the connection between your physical and the NFT, which will be accessible through the chip. And then also what we're calling your wearable wallet. So every single merch hoodie comes with its own Polygon wallet, which is where you're able to accrue what we're calling experience tokens, which are the merch version of POAP. So it's proof of provenance of your physical that lives on the blockchain that's encapsulated inside the garment. So, whether it be, we have, institutional partners where if you wear your merch product to, X museum, you potentially get free entrance to the museum. You would also get a merch experience token sent to your wearable wallet. Or, for example, our party that we just did during NFT NYC, we had sort of a first batch of hoodies that went out to our artist prototype set. So anyone that wore their hoodie to our party will get their first experience token sent to their wearable wallet.
I'm curious how you think about the opportunity, I guess, looking forward to like the big vision for merch, because you're clearly setting yourself up for a much more like immersive digital world. I think when you buy one of these, you also get a metaverse ready piece of clothing. So I'm curious, when you kind of look forward and think about the big opportunity, is it in the kind of physical digital connection? Is it, being a primarily like, metaverse brand? Is it actually more kind of in the physical world and just, I don't know, the tie-in's kind of cool? How are you thinking about that?
Well, and for this first drop, you do get a virtual asset. It's not a one-of-one wearable. It's an avatar of our logo that you can use either in OnCyber or Monoverse. So ultimately, our goal is to move towards that one-of-one wearable sector as the virtual asset. However, I didn't see, as much of a use case for this first drop and an ROI that, warranted creating all of those one-of-one assets for this first drop. In the future, absolutely. That's my hope. That's sort of our North Star goal in terms of the virtual asset. But as a traditional sort of fashion consumer, I'm also, will never kind of turn my back on the physical. So in my mind, what really excites me is this sort of triumvirate of product that we are developing. So having every single drop have a digital asset being its NFT, a physical asset being the physical, and a virtual asset being an asset for the metaverse. So I think for me, the future of luxury and the future of any brand is having a product, but being able to use it in whatever dimension you so choose. And so how can we enhance ownership for consumers of the future and give them products that they can wear either physically, they could use in the metaverse, and so on.
Multi-dimensional, truly.
Neo couture. I love it. Sick, Colby. So the drop is next week, right?
The drop,
what are the
we
dates?
have an allow list day on Tuesday, which opens at 6 a.m. Eastern. And there's sort of two stages. Sorry, excuse me. There's two stages of the allow list from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's sort of an early access and, just sort of keep up with us on Twitter to be able to see kind of who's part of that group. And then from 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday to 6 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday will be the rest of the allow list, which are a lot of our, different communities that we've snapshotted, different, people that we've sort of partnered up with. And then the public mint opens on Wednesday, the 17th. And one thing that really excites me that we announced today is our receipt token that you get, that we partnered with Die with the Most Likes, and he created some original artwork for us for what we're calling the merch receipt token, which in my mind is our community token. And you can earn a receipt token. There's two different sort of actions that we reward, one at mint and one at claim. So theoretically, if you come and you mint your hoodie and you claim it, you will also get 2 receipt tokens, which are 1155 tokens with original artwork by Die with the Most Likes. And our whole idea is to build out, continue building out this merch ecosystem, and obviously being able to reward our early collectors and early supporters, and potentially, being able to use that receipt token for burn mechanics later on to get you sort of special access to merch related drops or events.
Awesome. All right. Well, folks, go check out merch. Go follow Kobe. Obviously, a big week next week. Excited to follow along, and thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right.
Tokens, baby. Distribute tokens through physical merch. It's a big opportunity. I want to do a Ponzi t-shirt where the only way you can go get the Ponzi t-shirt token is by tapping. Just load up one t-shirt with a bunch of Ponzi tokens, and then people can go tap it, and then that allows them to go get other Ponzi tokens, and it just proliferates through buying
great.
and
the site is just the pyramid.
Yeah.
Dude, I literally have the t-shirt too. I shared it a while back, but it's "The World is a Ponzi."
That's the shirt.
That's the shirt.
All right, put it on the list. Somebody else go build it. Let us know.
I'm a rugged man.
We do need another Seed Club drop, clothing drop. So
maybe do an Enjoy drop with some embedded tokens. Not a Ponzi, but cool. All right.
So let's get into the topic that I think is primarily responsible for the state of our brains right now, and that's I guess what we're calling social distribution. So we've been talking a lot about Scene Coins. Kind of finally dropped a little post on it, kind of describing the opportunity that I see with them. But I think really a core interesting piece of it to us is this idea of like social token distribution that's kind of emerging alongside them. So, core to the success of Scene Coins is getting the token into the hands of as many, aligned people and potential members as possible. So, of course, some are going to dump, but many won't. And kind of alongside this distribution, you're going to create, this broad attention base in the process. So, an initial airdrop is a great way to kind of do this for retroactive contributions, but, it really only looks backwards and lasts for kind of this brief moment in time. And traditionally you would go from that to kind of like immediately trading just being the core token experience, which isn't very compelling, I don't think, for most people, and ultimately isn't actually very productive to like the formation and creation of a scene. So I think we're seeing, so DJing kind of popularized tipping, which really is, tipping's not a great language for it, I think people anchor on the wrong thing there, but really it's just giving community members the ability to allocate tokens. And it's proven to just be this incredible way of kind of having, the airdrop impact, but doing it over time in ways that are, generating huge amounts of attention, encouraging and rewarding like core scene building activities, creates consistent and fun participation opportunities. And ultimately, like, I think the most interesting piece is how it just like reveals scene reputation over time. So I think like maybe to anchor this in Enjoy, to just get a little more specific for a sec. So, Enjoy is a scene of on-chain creators. All members of the scene receive a weekly allowance of Enjoy to hand out to other creators in the context of their contributions, which are mint comments, and the amounts based on scene reputation. So it's just been crazy seeing, I think, how much this has ignited the scene and ultimately like is strengthening the social fabric of it. Like people really want to join this scene because of tipping. It's kind of this carrot at the end of the stick. Members are self-organizing and self-coordinating to actually allocate these tips in meaningful ways. And then, now everyone kind of across the scene is being recognized and making money for this like very tangible value they're actually creating for the scene that I think largely was maybe unrecognized previously, or at least like way less legible than it is when you kind of have this social distribution mechanic. So we've been, I don't know, just banging our heads together for days around this concept. So curious what the state of your brain is around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think distribution of tokens has always been been done in a very blunt way. Airdrops as an example. There's been a lot of innovation in how you give tokens away or expose people to tokens. From ICOs to lock drops to airdrops to retro PGF. There's sort of like this. I think it's sort of mechanics are in search of more effectiveness in getting tokens into the right hands of people, and I think it's still very incomplete as like a category. And I think you're right. Tipping from DGen is like a major shift in how tokens are distributed to communities in a way that is actually pretty elegant, right? Like the model here is go find who the best representatives of your community are, or your scene, or your network, and empower them with some ownership and the power to bring the next group of people in. And tipping is just such a simple way to do that, but I think there's probably a pretty big design space that lives here if you think about just instead of thinking of it as tipping, but just think of it as sort of social distribution. We're seeing on chain here who's doing this through somewhat of like a treasure hunt. That's probably not a cool way to describe it, but it's like if you do things on chain, all of a sudden you get points, and those points represent these tokens. They don't tell you exactly how to go get them, but what you've seen is sort of like a group of people come together to try to figure out what the things they can go do that will unlock this. And so there's the sense of momentum and participation in a social context that people connect and want to build around. And I think my gut says that there will be many like that. The opportunity here is to figure out other new novel ways that kind of bridge this core mechanic of like distributing tokens with the social dynamic that actually makes like an Enjoy tip, as much as that feels like by many as being spammy on Farcaster, it is a big reason why DGen, so I guess I should say DGen, Enjoy that maybe just solves that a little bit, but DGen on Farcaster is spreading the meme, right? There people are going to ask the question, what the heck is this? And even better, they have tokens that they can go claim and all of a sudden are in this ecosystem without them having to actually buy a token to start. And so I think there's like a broad shift away from, we were talking to Light earlier about sort of this evolution of DAOs. If you think about how this was done in DAOs, it was done through governance tokens and through proposals and this very awkward, very low value for most participants, process that was a lot more like work than it was like fun. And it really limited the core sort of metric that you should probably be measuring a lot of these things on, which is like what's the velocity of your token getting into the right people's hands, and what are they doing with it. So through this lens, I think there's sort of like a lot more possibility, a lot more scale, a lot more fun, a lot more distribution. And I think we're only scratching the surface on the types of mechanics that people will use in this category to sort of build net new things, right? And we're already seeing a whole infrastructure layer emerge, right? We're seeing parties making a bunch of announcements today around sort of the early formation of meme or scene coins and the provisioning of liquidity, these sort of tipping mechanics that are being built up by DGen and by Enjoy. That's super interesting. I think we'll see a number of other ones, and I think the opportunity for builders right now is to kind of figure out what those are for them. And I think what's also maybe kind of interesting is to think that maybe you don't have to anchor on just one, that maybe there is sort of this like creativity that can be brought to a continuous process. If the intention is, how do I go identify who a great member in my community is, give them the ability to participate in the distribution of tokens. Tipping is probably just one small layer of what's possible there, and I'm excited to see what other people come up with. That's kind of where my brain's been turning around the most on this.
Yeah, I think the thing that excites me the most about it is, I think with scene coins, these tokens are like very focused and targeted towards a specific type of guy, to use like Toby's language. And DGen is aggregating this scene of Farcaster believers, right? And what do Farcaster believers do? They cast and are very active on Farcaster. And DGen tipping is a social distribution tool that is just very intertwined with the like core defining activity of their scene. And it's the same with Enjoy, right? Like the core defining activity of on-chain creators is creating, and on the fan side, it's collecting. And we can just very intertwine the actual distribution of the token and empower the community to actually do it around those core defining activities. So I think that's, I don't know, the way that just kind of hypercharges the scene and how that can be applied to like any number of kind of interest areas or types of guys or groups of people is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. Generally, when we see new mechanisms emerge, a lot of creativity follows, and I think that's kind of, we're in the early stages of that. As I still see so many people confusing tipping and not looking at it with the right nuance, right? It's, there was a lot of tipping that happened in the early distribution of crypto. Faucets were another way. There's like a lot of sort of early mechanics that work like that, but so much of the early tipping, and even today, if you think about it in the context, is I'm giving away my tokens. People just don't want to do that. It's actually not super aligned with things, unless they have a ton and just big believers in the thing. And it probably only works well when there's like a lot of obscurity around a thing you're trying to meme it into existence. I think we're in a different attention world today. People sort of see opportunity here, and the ability to give like an allocation from the project's allocation to give away is the unlock. And I think like the basic premise that is going to be extended in a number of different mechanics moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet.
Maybe this next topic is another version of that, right? Like it is sort of a novel distribution mechanism.
Yeah. So yeah, let's jump to nouns getting a scene coin, I guess you could call it. So Elad dropped a plan this week to create nouns, $nouns, which is a noun-backed fungible token. So basically the mechanism or smart contracts they're creating will allow nouns owners to deposit their NFTs to receive 1 million nouns tokens in return. So really the core intent behind it, as described in the proposal, is to really just make nouns access more affordable, and ultimately in turn scale the number of people that are a part of the project. And I think it's like of course, I guess, like when I read this, right, like it seems just so entirely obvious now, with the success of meme coins and increasingly scene coins, how just like restricting NFT based or governance focused network structures are. And in this this world of attention, assets, you want as many people as possible to as easily as possible own, coordinate around, and care about your asset. And I'm just pretty convinced at this moment in time that that's best done with fungible tokens, and I think increasingly these social distribution mechanisms. So ultimately, I think great step in nouns to kind of capturing more attention and regaining some of its some of its relevance that it had. I do think it'll be pretty interesting to watch the like dynamics play out, because they still have their daily auctions. They're going to have these fungible tokens that will be liquid in trading, and then they also have these secondary marketplaces. So I think just seeing how those all play together is going to be probably kind of weird. Theoretically, there are going to be these arbitrage opportunities, and market forces should bring them into equilibrium. But I also probably see a world where like demand for fungible tokens is way higher than the demand for the NFTs, at least if this goes according to plan. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know how that plays out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting because, you know, the strength of the Nouns mechanism is the daily auction. And, you know, people are spending a lot of money to become members of this. And there's some status that's involved with it. There's some sort of a fun game for us to go play. And, you know, the core idea behind Nouns is that this sort of perpetual auction that was actually solving the issue with NFTs in the beginning, which is like this one moment where you sell out and there's no consistent way of sort of perpetuating the meme and funding the perpetuation of the meme to be done there. And so Nouns has a very elegant solution there. And, you know, they've created a lot of really interesting things. You know, I think my wife sent me a cute video on Instagram and I was like, oh, those are Noggles, and it happened to be a team that had been funded by Nouns. Or there's a lot of governance tools, or, you know, they most recently just sort of rolled out a Nouns focused Farcaster client round, trying to get teams and fund teams who are building in it. And so clearly like a ton of value there. And also it's very limited by the, you know, the high barrier that exists to join and the high barrier that exists to participate in it. So I think this fungible token, you know, is going to bring more liquidity to it and more participation, and is very much going to create an interesting dynamic, right? Because what you ultimately have here is you have a meme coin where every day you're selling 1 million more of them, and so I don't know how that's ultimately going to play out. I think in one version, I think like just the extra liquidity and distribution is going to be very, very powerful, and then maybe you have this counterbalance impact where there's still like a consistent buy side pressure required to actually maintain the underlying interest here. And of course, this is after the Nouns fork where a lot of people sort of exited. And so I think it's the right time for them to do it. I think, you know, probably couldn't go do this with the meme coin mechanic embedded from day one as effectively. There's clearly a big brand and a sense of momentum and a scene here. And so, yeah, watching this one very closely, because again, it's bringing, you know, this sort of revenue model and a governance model into this meme world. And when those sort of things start to overlap, it's time to pay attention.
Yeah, I think I'm curious to see. You know, I feel like the big unlock Nouns really needs. I mean, this kind of more fluid attention generation is great, but just like easier spending of the treasury or allocation of capital. So I'm interested to see how these fungible tokens play into that. Is there some like, you know, more granular kind of social distribution reward system they set up? Like what happens next, I guess, is I think where things get pretty interesting probably.
Yeah, that's the awesome place to be. I mean, yeah, like the rewarding in $ Nouns versus an ETH for, you know, many interactions. And they've had a number of attempts at this, right? Like they're part of the fork actually led to a whole bunch of Nouns existing in the Nouns treasury, and there's sort of this desire to use that, and you know, they have given away Nouns as part of proposals in the past, but it's a big meaty chunky, you know, I don't know what we're sort of going for on the daily auction right now, but yeah, you can very clearly see how a lot more granular and fluid and broad, and maybe there's a sense of it actually being a lot less precious around that token than they would be around the ETH or the Nouns themselves that are in the treasury. And I think that's actually a really big unlock as we move from governance tokens as the meta to attention tokens as the meta. That really, one is, as I said before, more scarcity mindset. You're giving up control. You have some sort of treasury you're governing. The other is far more abundance. Is how do we get this into as many of the right hands as possible and capture the right attention? And I think the core success of Nouns comes more from the latter part. You know, whether they did a fungible token or not. This idea of, you know, perpetuating the meme in its fullest. And I think that has been limited based on the scarcity mindset that has existed in many of the governance proposals and discussions that have maybe weighted down a little bit over the last year or so.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, they're still going for like 6, 7 ETH. Like the resiliency, even with the lack of, I think, broad attention, or like the lack of Nouns being a core part of any hot narrative. Yeah.
But I think and through the bear market too, right? Like it was consistent. I think it dipped. I think there was one low sale, but everything else has been remarkably consistent. So yeah, cool. Very interesting. The fuck around and find out moment that we're in right now is probably the thing that I'm most excited about. I mean, I love that we're so many teams I talked. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I talked to teams that are like on every scale fucking around finding out. Like there is a lot of stuff happening right now, and cool.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
the
an interesting
the willingness to launch tokens is back, and that's exactly where this space needs to be.
tokens, deals, people moving around, new creator funds being created, like shit's happening.
Shit's happening. All right, so let's jump to tokens and the future of entertainment.
Yes,
So
I guess about that topic.
I don't know. I put zero thought into these titles, and just whatever comes out comes out. So two things this week that I guess just got me thinking, and us talking a little bit about how tokens fit into I don't know about the future of entertainment, but the future of content, or whatever you want to call it. But so Andrew Kang tweeted about the Mr. Beast flywheel, how it relates to meme coins, and kind of asking where like the Mr. Beast of meme coins is. So I think that's kind of an interesting one. And then also Unlonely just continues to fuck around and find out with new meme coin mechanics within the context of live streaming. So I think both of these are kind of interesting topics, maybe starting with Unlonely since it's up on the screen. So they launched the 30-minute token this week, which basically is a streamer goes onto Unlonely, creates a token, and that token has 30 minutes to reach a price threshold. If it hits the threshold, it gets the timer gets reset for another 24 hours, and basically they come on the next day for like the 30-minute countdown to try to hit the next threshold. And if it doesn't, whatever liquidity is left in the pool actually goes to the streamer. So I think just like I don't know, they've continued just experimenting with the like how do you just like as closely couple the entertainment experience or like the viewing experience with tokens or the trading of tokens. Watching this one's pretty
heavy.
This one's like the tightest coupling I think they've had so far. Like if you watch Brian on this, like right now he's just like buy, like he's just jumping around trying to get people to buy so it hits the threshold and they can live another day.
It's so awesome because it's like that. I mean, it's that pump.fun mechanic, right? Where you basically have this trusted way of launching a coin, and it's so much fun to kind of like abstract that into any purchase experience that you have on the internet and just be like, there is this goal that when you get to, it goes beyond your purchase. It becomes this larger mimetic device where you actually reward. And so everyone can be stoked about supporting the creator, be stoked that if they reach a certain point, like they win too and own this new fun thing. I love it so much.
Yeah, I think this is the answer to what Andrew's getting at there with his tweet, right? Like, or some version of it. Or likely this will be the team that figures it out. I think there's an interesting question to ask of like how this stuff goes into where attention lives today. Like, how do you go do something on Twitch, which is where the attention lives, or how do you go do something on YouTube? I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think there is like it's very clear if somebody's building has like a Mr. Beast sensibility in some way, probably in a bit more of a niche way, and can tap into the crypto culture and bring in, very much in the way that the Unlonely team's doing here, that sort of token dynamic. There's a phenomenal business model here, right? Like the idea that you're creating a social context in which people want to transact in something. If you're building a platform, protocol tool, you're in the transaction flow, there's fees that are earning there, et cetera. And then you have this sort of like free alternative mechanism, which is the token itself that can kind of go live in the current context, but some number will break out into the wider subset. And I think that's fascinating, and we're definitely interested in this. So if you're out there building kind of at that intersection, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, I think Brian made, or the streamer who was Brian made 6K in I think the half-hour stream that then got propagated to the next day, and then got to keep playing. I think piece to your point, I was having the same thought around the intersection of like this and kind of pump.fun mechanics, like this being the way that tokens get launched.
That's what so many people in that comment section were saying is basically pump.fun plus a live stream, or pump.fun plus, and
because just like the like social like firepower that you can give, and like the narrative firepower you could give a token by like launching it on a 30-minute stream where the person is just like imbuing their token with like their personality and meaning, I think is a really interesting way to launch them.
Josh, I got to leave or I'm going to miss a flight. So I got to hop off right now. But I will say that the last thing, you're going to jump into this next topic. I think that the future, as you talk about this next topic, is a lot closer to Unlonely than it is to the main example that Luca uses in this piece here. And so that's the only point I want to leave people with. But I love you all.
I'm actually,
gonna,
yeah. See you, Jess. Have a good flight.
Okay, bye.
Ciao, ciao.
I'm gonna actually not
You
talk
and
about it
me,
because
baby.
I've barely read it, and I was relying on Jess to introduce it so I could respond to it. So we're just gonna say that I have heard from people that this is a post that's worth reading, and I will be reading it shortly after this, and probably including it in my newsletter. So if you want my takes on it, go check the newsletter out. Peace. I think I only added like one thing in the lightning round, so maybe let's pop to that, and then we'll sign off.
Beauty. What do we got? Oh,
I think
yeah.
I think it's just cool. It's cool to see the friend tech redemption, arc start taking hold. I think, is there a chart somewhere if you scroll down? I think
This Dune dashboard. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. Numbers are just way up. So I think in consumer tech, a very, very hard thing to do is to get people to come use their product, them have like a not great experience, and ever get them to come back. I think friend tech is seemingly successfully doing that, obviously on the backs of like heavy speculation and the promise of an airdrop. But I think just seeing, I don't know, seeing this thing go kind of dormant for months and get some more usage. I don't know how they've changed the product or what their plans are for the airdrop, but I think they're clearly showing that they're not dead. They have another chance here, and whatever comes next, maybe their last one. But I think the resiliency or incentives of tokens to get people back and kind of combat this kind of classic consumer building trope is very interesting.
Big time. Damn, do I not get this anymore? Is it off of this site?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I think it's been pumping. I think friend tech points have been trading up to like $7 to $10 or something on.
The last time I saw friend USD on Avo, it was like $42.
$42?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it was. On this perps site that is currently not loading, maybe because I'm not connected. I don't know. But
that's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard they're airdropping 100% of, I don't know, some insane distribution strategy. Anyways, I think it's coming imminently. Going to be fun to watch. Going to be fun to see if the product improves or stickiness of it, or social context it's able to create changes at all. But that's it. We're over time. Signing off. Peace. Thanks for hanging out.
Big time. Nice one.
Thanks everyone for. It's gonna be what?
It's gonna be a big week.
Say it again, man. Say it again. Nice. Well, yeah. Thanks for everyone for hanging out. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Yeah, to Piece's point, every week's a big week, so we'll see you for another one.